Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Proline Daily. It's the longest-running sports handicapping show in America. Direct from Las Vegas with Jim Feist. I'm Dave Cokin, and we've got postseason now officially underway in both sports. The NHL got the head start of the NBA, but the Pro Hoop swings in action tomorrow. Baseball, obviously, taking place as well. Jim, that NBA run, boy, it was a heck of a regular season for you. 85-45 run in Pro Hoops, and now you're ready for the playoffs. Just good results, that's all. So let's look at the NBA in the series that seems to be getting, I'm looking at the screen, Jim, and the series play, the series odds that are delivering the most action right now. Well, the line's actually gone up a little bit, but I think that's public money from what I can gather. That's in the Jazz-Clippers series where the Sharps came in on the underdog early. Looking at other series that are moving, not a great deal. That was the game, the series that I was told was getting the most sharp action. I can see that too. You know, the Jazz, first of all, they play a ton of defense, and that sometimes bothers the Clippers, who are not the most disciplined team in the league. And the other thing here with Utah is, you know, they battled. They went 51-31, Jim. Same record as the Clippers, and they did it with a lot of injuries. Now the Clippers, you could argue the Clippers had a lot of injuries as well, but I think Utah more under the radar in terms of what they accomplished, despite the fact that they. And this is an interesting stat from John Grant providing this. The Jazz were the only playoff team that didn't have a lineup that played at least 200 minutes together. They basically only had their best lineup on the floor for 13 games. That's pretty good.
Well, it is. I guess the only question is, have they had enough time to gel together since they have not played that much together? But, 11-2 straight up in games their starters were together. But injuries were the story for the whole season. Dave, I want to just interject, make a little funny comment. You said before, most people won't complain about being 16-9. I'm going to go back a couple of years where I had a run in football, and for the weekend, or for the whole week, including Monday night to Monday night, I was 16-1. And one of the customers called in and he says, "How in the world could you have played Kansas City?" Which was the one game that lost. He was 16-1, and what did he do? He called up and complained about that one game. So, yeah, there are people out there that will complain about the 9 losses, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, if you're parlaying everything, then you probably won't win.
Yeah.
Just the way it runs. Anyway, I'll interject something on the NBA as well. You know, we were talking about this before we started taping. How is it the teams that didn't make the playoffs gave regulars the last game off? I mean, that's, you know, this is the NBA's got a problem here. I'm not saying they lost a lot of fans, because I think the fans will come back now that the playoffs are here. But, you know, you're playing with fire, NBA. You know, this resting players has gotten to an epidemic proportion, and it's really turning off a lot of fans.
Well, it is, Dave. You know, I was listening to a caller on a show I was doing the other day in Canada, and they have a pricing system. I don't know if I don't go to NBA games very much. I watch a lot on TV, but
a lot of teams have it where the big game tickets are more expensive than some of the other game tickets.
Yeah, like a game with Toronto against Cleveland might be $180 a seat, where if it's against Sacramento, it might be $30.
Right.
But if you buy the whole season package, you get all those games instead of spot, you know. But that requires you to buy the whole season package to get that price. But then you're committed to 80 to 40 games at home. Of course, you get a shot at, if they make the playoffs, of getting in there. But Adam Silver needs to step up and do something. I don't know what he can do, but you got guys making $20 million, $30 million. Even if you're making $5 million, for God's sake, is there anybody out there that has a job that makes $5 million and complains to their boss that they're tired and they need half a season off? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is. I can't stand it.
no,
Uh,
it's hard. It's hard to deal with. It's hard to imagine. Has America become so soft and so, I mean, so spoiled and so entitled that we allow this? I mean,
it's also bullshit. Okay, and I'm sorry, the whole thing's bullshit, and here's why. Uh, you go back. Can you imagine Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, those guys just taking days off because they were tired? And
no,
and believe me, the conditioning opportunities now are way better than they were 30 years ago. Okay, these guys have nutritionists. They fly on chartered flights. They don't have to wait around in airports and fly public flights. They got everything going, everything possible. They are incredibly pampered, and that ties in with we have to have days off. It's disgusting, and I think it's more. It falls right into the line of the what some people complain about, and they'll call it the pussification or the wussification. Check your, you can pick your term there, of America, and I don't disagree with it. For Christ's sakes, you're getting paid really well. You've got every perk imaginable. I don't want to hear that they're tired and they need rest. Get out and play the goddamn game, okay? And if I sound like an old fart, this is one where the old farts are right and the millennials are wrong, okay? You don't need time off. Go out there and play the game. You got paying customers that are shelling out big dollars to watch you play. There is no excuse. I'm not saying they have to play every single game. You want to spot guys a day off here and there? That's not a problem. But you don't. First of all, if you look at baseball, now nobody plays 162 games in baseball, and it's easy to see why. Even the best players are going to get 10 or 12 games off during the course of the season. But the difference is that if the Angels give Mike Trout a day off, they don't also give Albert Pujols, Andrelton Simmons, and whoever else a day off as well. They don't bench the whole damn team. In the NBA, they do this all the time. Where, well, we're not going to play this guy, and by the way, we're not going to play the rest of the regulars either. That's the problem I have with it. I don't think anybody would be beefing about LeBron taking an occasional game off, except the other guys in the team take the same day off. And you end up having a skeleton crew out there, and that's why you have these 20-point line swings. Literally, there have been games where there have been just unbelievable line swings this year because some team was a 7-point favorite, and then, we're not going to play anybody. So now they're 8-point underdogs. You just can't. The NBA has to fix this in the offseason. It's a ripoff for the fans, and I disagree with it. I think it is the ultimate in softness.
well, it's an entire. People are entitled. Just because you can dribble a basketball, you're a big guy, you're 6'8", 6'10", whatever the hell you are, and you're very talented at that particular, or maybe in all sports. Some guys that are good at one sport are good at a lot of sports. But I don't think they do this in Europe. I mean, they play basketball in Europe and South America. I don't think they do this, and they certainly don't get paid that kind of money.
No.
So I mean, it's ridiculous. The other thing, Dave, is they don't do this for their home games. They do it on road trips.
Yeah.
Where people have bought tickets to go to a game in Miami to see LeBron James and these other stars that are there, Love and Kyrie Irving, and they don't even make the trip. So, I mean, I don't see how that isn't a bait and switch tactic that actually is not immoral, ethical, but it's also illegal to do that.
Well, all I know is I don't like it. Well, all right. So let's talk about the games a little bit. And we were on the Utah Clippers, and the big key in this series could end up being that foul shooting for the Clippers. If these games are close, they miss a lot of free throws. We know who the guy who misses the most is, DeAndre Jordan. If you're going to have him off the court, if you're going to have to take him off the court with 3 or 4 minutes to go in the half or in the game, it could end up costing them the series. I think it's a huge factor in this series because these figure to be close games. between Utah and the Clippers, and that's where bad foul shooting could really be costly to the Clippers. So I think the Jazz have a real good chance to win this series, Jim, and I think that's one I'm going to probably take a little bit of a shot with.
Well, let's take a look at this. The Jazz, I'm looking here for the series. It looks like when you look at one of the offshores like Pinnacle or Chris, are minus 215 to win the series. That's the Clippers, excuse me. Yep. Plus 181 to 192 on the Jazz. That's actually a pretty darn close price. As a matter of fact, I think it's the closest price series out there. It is.
That's a lot.
It is. The Wizards and Hawks are also close.
That's
They're almost at the same price. Right. What's that?
That's the only other one that's close.
Right. You get the Warriors against the Blazers, you got to lay 8,000. To win that.
That's cheap. It's
they're not going to lose that game. Lose that series.
The Westgate's minus 20,000.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh
it's what it says on my screen. So they clearly don't want anybody jumping in. They don't want the bridge jumpers at that establishment. But a lot of them are in the minus 10,000, minus 8,000. The Blazers have no chance in the series. I know they won a couple of games when they met last year, but this Golden State team, I think it is way ahead of Portland at this point. Portland's not as good as they.
Dave, let's talk about something that I think is very meaningful to people. Is the Cleveland Cavaliers? They're champions. They came back last year. They were down 3-1 to the Warriors, and they came back and won the series. Let's look a little bit at the difference between last year and this year. The Cavs have had a rough year with a lot of situations there. LeBron has played more regular season minutes this year than he has in the previous 2 years.
Right. By the way, there's part of the problem is that the guys play too many minutes, and that's why they need these days off. How about playing them a few less minutes?
But he played 70. He played 70. Give him credit. He only took 10% of the year off because he played 74 of the 82 games.
Yeah.
Which isn't that terrible compared to some of these other guys. But when you look at the fact that last year the Warriors went for that regular season record and probably played too hard and wore their asses out. And then when it got into a big series with a team like the Cavaliers and LeBron, who is, arguably still the best player we've seen since Michael. He took over and did his thing. So they lost it.
I never bought into. I know I'm probably minority here, but I didn't. I am not one who believes Golden State lost that series because they were tired. I think they lost that series because Cleveland just got better than they were. They were better defensively. And Cleveland was a very physical team, but they were also, it's like Cleveland was really talented last year. They were healthy, and I thought that I never thought that Cleveland got enough credit for winning that series last year. Everybody talked about Golden State losing the series. I guess that's easy to do when you got a 3-1 lead and you don't win it. But it's weird how in basketball, one team gets blamed for losing the series, and you don't want to credit the other team for winning the series. In baseball, the Indians up 3-1 as well. I don't hear anybody saying, "Wow, boy, the Indians lost that series." They give the Cubs credit for winning the series. Not sure why it's the same. Why it's different.
I'd be different. The Indians last year had 3 of their starting pitchers still healthy, which is a lot of pitchers to lose. And they would have won. They were, to me, they were a better team. They just had lost 3 of their starting pitchers, and they were worn out. Physicality means something. And I disagree with you. I think the Warriors went to establish a regular season record that is absolutely meaningless because the regular season in pro basketball is absolutely meaningless to half of the teams. These teams do not care about seeding. They don't care. They rest players. They don't go on trips. They play 14 minutes out of the game. it just doesn't mean anything. It's a meaningless record in today's day and age.
It wasn't to them, obviously, but here's the other. I'll give you this. I don't think it was the regular season push as much as the fact that Golden State had a much tougher road to the finals last year because the Western Conference is way stronger than the Eastern Conference. And Golden State had to go through some really good teams to get to the finals. Cleveland had a cakewalk.
You're right about that, Dave. That adds to it. It just all adds to it. Yes.
And the same thing, and the same thing could happen this year because the Western Conference is still much stronger than the Eastern Conference, and Golden State is still going to have to go through, maybe not in this first series because Portland, I'm not sure Portland can beat them in any games, but it's going to get a lot tougher after that, and it's not going to be tougher for Cleveland. I think Cleveland's got an easy road again. Look, the number one seed is Boston, and we saw what happened in the one meaningful game the Celtics and Cavaliers had. The Cavaliers went into Boston and just absolutely killed them. I think Cleveland's going to have an easy road again.
Well, I'm going to say this. I agree with you about the Boston thing. I think the Cavaliers are way better, and when they turn on the gas, they are way better, and they'll show up if it gets to that point. I do believe there's a problem for Cleveland. I don't know that they have the inside game. They have Thomas inside, the Tristan Thomas inside, but they don't have anything else. They tried to shore that up with Bogut, but he got hurt. They really don't have an inside player that they should have in there, and they don't have it. And at this point of the season, I have to look north of the border. And I'm looking at Toronto, and I'm going to give the players, the people out there, my opinion, that Toronto has an excellent chance to win the East. Not Boston, Toronto. I think they win the East and meet the Warriors, and the Warriors will annihilate them.
Okay. I'll respectfully disagree. I think they just have never been able to put it together in the playoffs, and I don't think they will this year. And I think Toronto's going to have their hands full with Milwaukee in this first round because the best player on the floor has a tendency to really control things in the playoffs, and the Greek Freak is the best player on the floor in this series. So
he is good.
Not going to pick Milwaukee to win it, but I think Milwaukee's. Let me put it this way: I think at the price, Milwaukee might be a good value in this series. I think they have a chance.
Well, I can't disagree that there's always somebody that can come up and get you. But if it comes down to the Raptors against the Cavs, at that point, if it comes down to that, I think the Raptors have a good shot.
It'll be fun to watch. One series we didn't touch on. Washington's had themselves a heck of a year. They're 50-32. They're very good at home. Now the Atlanta Hawks have not had a good regular season. 44-38. It's a respectable record, but they're not a very good team. They actually were outscored on the season. They had the worst point differential among the 16 playoff teams. I think Washington could have a pretty easy time in this series. I'm just not buying the Atlanta Hawks, and that Washington offense. Now I'll give you this: the Hawks are a pretty good defensive team, but they have trouble offensively, and I think Washington's going to be too much for them. That's Atlanta's this. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm on the right page here. I am. That's a 3-6 matchup. The Wizards are the 3, and the Hawks are the 6. I actually think at 210 or so, if you're looking for a favorite, a reasonably priced favorite that should win its series, I think it might be the Wizards.
I agree with that. I'm actually surprised. I'm seeing a little bit of money come in right now and showing for Washington in this first game. Not a lot, but then I'm looking at another book, and it's actually going the other way. So I guess it's two-way action on this, Dave. But of all the games, there's games Saturday and Sunday. 83% of the bets are on Washington, which means there's got to be a balance of some bigger players on Atlanta.
That's it, Chris. which is kind of a public. I would call that more of a public shop, wouldn't you?
I would, yes.
Looking on the screen, you know, Washington's moved a couple of pennies in their way at Pinnacle. They've actually gone down at Win. Johnny Avella still puts out a sharp number, 4.5 there. So, I guess some of the sharp money is showing on Atlanta, and that's why that line is holding despite a big percentage. I mean, Chris is a good example. I mean, they opened the thing 5. They're still at 5. And yet you're seeing that huge percentage at that store on the Wizard side. So
well, maybe we should explain something. When we say 83% are on Washington, we're not talking about money.
Right,
we're talking about tickets. That's the number of tickets being written on Washington.
The other games are all getting split action. It looks like it's a good weekend for the books.
It really does. It really the next biggest number is on the Clippers and on Houston at 59% each.
Yep.
And that's again just tickets.
I'm going to check one of my other contacts right now because I get percentages from this particular shop. It'll take me 1 second. Maybe I'm getting something wrong in the Clippers. I just think this is a fairly good matchup for them. Let me see here. Let me get to my NBA stuff. And the Wizards are the top ticket play in Game 1 on a percentage standpoint from this site. And actually, this is interesting. The second biggest is Oklahoma City.
That's the opposite of what we have on Chris. Because Oklahoma City only has 41% of the tickets there.
Well, at this place, they're getting about 2/3 of the action.
No kidding.
So,
wow.
A lot of people evidently believing that's going to be and you know what? It is the most entertaining series. Of all the first-round matchups, the one I guess I want to watch is Oklahoma City and Houston, Westbrook versus Harden.
Yeah.
Two front runners for the MVP, and that could be a fireworks series.
What do you think about the MVP voting? How do you look at it? Do you say which player, if removed from the team, would affect the team the most?
Well, if you're going on that, then you just give it to LeBron.
Right.
LeBron every year because there isn't even any discussion on this. LeBron is clearly the most valuable player in the league. So to me, I'm going with the guy who had the best season because I think that's what the award is meant to be. To me, it's the most outstanding player. How can you determine valuable? Oklahoma City's not going to be in the playoffs without Westbrook. Houston is not going to be anywhere near where they are without Harden. They're all valuable. The guy who had the best season, to me, it has to be Westbrook. I mean, he averaged a triple-double. He shattered a record that had stood for 50-something years.
Wow.
And he did it in less minutes, by the way. He never played 40 minutes in a game once the whole season. So I think Westbrook had the best season, and I would vote for him. But, I'm not going to argue with somebody who wants to make a case for James Harden, who also had a phenomenal year.
Well, like you said, you could give it to LeBron every year because of who he is and what he does. But, a side story, Westbrook played at UCLA in college. And David, I know you know the answer to this. I don't remember the coach.
Ben Howland.
Holland, okay. Do you know what Westbrook averaged when he was in college? About three to 5 points a game.
Well, the old joke about who's the only guy who could hold Michael Jordan to 15 points a game, and the answer was Dean Smith.
Absolutely. Same thing. Exactly. It's exactly the same question and answer. That's hilarious. When I read that, I just floored.